Hardspace Shipbreaker. Do you remember the opening cutscene to the StarCraft? No, not? The one when the Jera Dugel watched from the battle cruise as the Zork swarm overruns a colony? That's what you get when the Blue War is started. No? I mean the one where a group of space hicks is sowing wreckage and a fleet of Protoss show up to clean the planet. Have you ever wanted to be one of these space hicks? No, I don't man get vaporized by the space elves. There's something serene about the whole gravity scene. Survey the wreckage, celebrating the potential haul and dying in the hostile waken for the oblivion. It's something that stuck me in younger days. And now Hardspace Shipbreaker is making in reality they're making an interactive experience. So work sims have exploded in popularity recently, while managerial games has been almost as long as video games here. Getting down and dirty with a job is reasonably new phenomenon. There is an argument, or maybe just a get a job doing X, that comes with these games. But I'd rather take bites out the mud and the bottom of the trenches than pull up the blanket and live in them. For the matter, it can be hard to hit the special sweet spot work simulators. It has to be fun, and some of these games equate that as being weird or hilariously janky. The streamer crowd has launched onto these for that reason. It allows them to demonstrate some sort of fantastical interpretation while still being entertaining. Hardspace Shipbreaker is interesting because it's not particularly weird, nor is janky. It has a sense of humor about the things, but not poking fun at itself. Rather, it presents a satire of the modern workspace and corporate overloads, except it does it really effectively. So if you have ever had a really sucky boss and worked under the heel of unfamiliar management, it's probably going to hit close to home. Heck, I've worked in it for the 9 years. It's not the most grilling work, but the Hardspace Shipbreaker managed to find the nerves my old supervisor used to poke. That's fine and everything, but it's not necessarily the main appearance of Hardspace Shipbreaker. From the first day of the job until you decide you are finished, you're floating in zero gravity through the empty corridors and crawl spaces of various industrial ships, popping them open and peeling them away. The job is simple. There are 3 types of the scarp, and each one goes into a different space bucket. It's up for you to figure out how to recover every piece that you can get in the right spot. That requires cutting, plucking, and even exploring parts of the ship's body. It starts off easy. Don't electrocute yourself and be careful with that cutter around those big red barrels. Eventually you work your way up to much more dangerous kits. They are trusted that you need to cut the fuel to while everything starts to burn. There are reactors that you need to plug and dump before it vaporizes you at large sections of the ship. There are explosive decompressions, which can sometimes be an inconvenience and other times a catastrophic setbacks. Time is money, but scarp is also money, and it's worth more in one piece. The act of peeling apart the ship is just so satisfying. A clean scraping is like space music. Watching your feathers pull up of outer shell and deposit them in the proper spot is like napping a hammock. But then there are tense moments, like when you find the atmospheric regulator in one section of a ship is bust. So you need to be a controlled explosive dispersation, or when you pull a reactor and realize that the path you made isn't quite as clear as it seemed a moment ago. If that thing does go nuclear, your employer Link Salvage has you covered. They just bought up a clone and send you back to the work. It's probably the darkest little corner of the Hardspace Shipbreaker sense of humor. It at least made me take care of my mortar shell, so the doubt won't send me into another existential crisis. Oops, it's happening again. So let's move on. That's the standard mode that isn't permanent. There is a limited way of playing that gives you a set number of lives to spend. Then there is permanent death mode, if you rather not laugh in the face for God. Finally, there is a more freeform mode where you don't need to worry about the death or a shift clock. None of them are really touted as the true way to play, but the whole cloning thing is brought up for narrative reasons. Shipbreaker is quite a long game. There is a particular appeal in discovering spacecraft vessels, but there is a start and the end of the main career. In the beginning, you settle with the colossal debt to the links, and then it's given to you as sort of red herring for the game main objective. As you gain experience by hitting salvage goals and level up, additional objectives open up the narrative progresses to be a point of termination. It's all rather satisfying progression, but it takes a long time to get there. Luckily, it's helped by a lot of different ship configurations to mess with. I also have a good news and a bad news about the soundtrack. Bad news is first, it's mostly country. The good news, it's not more in pop country. You won't have lyrics about the beer, the idealized waters of the small town, and the life lessons you learn when out driving the truck. You won't have any lyrics at all. See, the good news is that it's just atmospheric twanging country. Acoustic guitars, fiddles, and then you put the reactor panicking techno overlaps it. And someone who deserts modern country, the soundtrack didn't really bother me. However, my brain insists that there are only about 3 tracks to the whole thing and refuses to stop playing them for me. One thing to note is that the narrative can get pretty down out. A lot of time you're starting at while listening to a character attacks over the comms. You never actually see the characters. It does a decent job to show the worries of working class, but if you just want to go and cut the ships apart, then I can see it getting a bit frustrating. It never really bothered me. I found the characters to be pretty likable. Hardspace Shipbreaker is successfully in just about everything it attempts. Not only its gameplay extremely replayable and constantly satisfying, but also manages to stack it with all very solid narrative foundation. Tangibly, it feels like keeping your head down while the force is bigger than you decide to your fate. But if you don't want to take a horrible management talk and the resistance to the authorization to grab you down, you can just go and hack some ships apart. It's a 7-0D experience while a wasp files around in your helmet. Ignore it and maybe it will leave you alone. Except probably not. Wasps are jerks. So impressive efforts with a few notable problems holding them back won't astound everyone, but it's worth your time and your cash. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye.